Jennifer here. So I actually want to talk a little bit about boundaries today because these are a really important part of our healing from betrayal, trauma, when we are married. So this video is going to be hopefully pretty short. I'm going to go over something that I did that you can utilize. So one of the really common things that women share with me, and I experienced it too, is the inability to be close to your spouse, be intimate with your spouse, no matter whether they are doing the things they're supposed to or not at all. So this is where the 3 boundary circles come into play, and I utilize these very early on, and then I also showed them to my therapist because I wanted to make sure that they were appropriate and not punitive. And what that means is a lot of times people will set boundaries to get somebody back or to punish them, and that's not what boundaries are for. Boundaries are simply to give us space to heal and to teach somebody how to treat us. So, but we're going to focus more on the space to heal because that's kind of where we're at right now. So what you're going to do is you are going to have just a piece of paper, and you're just going to do 3 circles, just like a target. So a bigger one with a middle and a smaller one. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what I'm going to have you do with that in just a second, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about why we're doing this. Okay, so post-disclosure, post-discovery, or maybe none of that has just happened and just something in your life has happened that triggered you to go back to that space in your body again. I know that was the case for me. It was childbirth. And for no rhyme or reason, I was feeling very unsafe physically, and it was very confusing for me. So this is not something I'd used then, but I think it would have been very, very helpful for me had I done this. So when you're post-discovery or post-disclosure, something that I think is really important is to not feel like you have to be intimate or physical with the person that just hurt you. It's okay to get some space because the goal is to reframe touch so that you can get back into that space. So everything about this is about redemption. It is about to bring about restoration. Now, if you do these healthy boundaries and it creates tension or it creates more negative experiences with your partner, that's really important for you to know. That could be an indicator on where they're at in their process. So first, let's really get into this. So 3 circles. So I actually got this idea through the sex addiction recovery process, the 3 sexual circles. It was basically like their circles on the things that they needed to do different so that they didn't relapse. And so I reversed it for us ladies to also give us a place to be safe and to heal, and to also, you can give this to your partner so they know. It's really important that we communicate with them what our boundaries are, and we don't have to necessarily show them through example. We can give them this, and then that way they know what's okay. Now, the other thing is these should be temporary, okay? So over time, you should be able to move things to the different circles as you start to rebuild trust and as you start to rebuild safety. So if you're letting your partner watch this, I just want you to know the goal is for restoration and reconciliation in the bedroom. And so that's what we're going to do. So let's talk about what should be in these circles. So when we think about all the ways that we physically relate to our spouse, from hand holding all the way up to sex, okay? So those things are going to be on here. They could be conversations about certain topics too. So that's also something to point out. So the inner circle are the things that for a set period of time, okay, there's a timeline on this, I would say no less than 30 days, no more than 90 days, okay? you would put in the inner circle the things that are absolutely off the table. No way, no how are you open to doing any of those things for that period of time. So the inner circle could consist of sex. It could consist of sleeping in the same bed, kissing. It could be anything. It could even be hand holding. It just depends on where you are with your ability to touch your spouse during this period of time. Now, the middle circle, okay? These are the things that you're okay with if you're feeling safe, and maybe they're also the things that you initiate specifically. It could excuse me. It could be hand holding. It could be rides in the car together. That was something that I couldn't do. I remember early on as being in the car alone with this person that hurt me. So it could be something like that. It could be sitting on the sofa together watching a movie. Maybe you initiate that stuff. And it does get a little tricky because some women want to be pursued, but this is probably not the moment because this poor guy who's hurt you doesn't really know what pursuit looks like right now because he's just trying to get himself straightened out. So this is where a lot of communication needs to come in. I really feel like doing this middle circle alleviates a lot of the confusion and a lot of the awkwardness that comes along in the recovery process for both partners. Okay, so again, middle circle are the things that you're okay with if you're feeling safe and you initiate them, okay? So what this doesn't look like is him giving you a hard time for sleeping in another bed, okay? Him giving you a hard time because you pull away when he tries to hold your hand, if hand holding is on this list in the middle, okay? Now, the outer one, those are the things you're absolutely okay with. He knows he has green lights for those. Now, if something happens and for some reason you need to move one of those to that middle circle, communicate that and maybe understand why that is. So the reason why that's really important is because I'm going to use the example of car rides alone together. That one was in my middle circle because there was a negative incident that happened in a car ride alone together that made me feel very unsafe. And so I moved it into the middle circle. So that way, every time we got in the car, he knew, hey, do you want to ride together or do you need to ride separately? And so that's how that went. So that's kind of why it's important to reevaluate those. You may have to do those a few times. Maybe hand holding is perfectly okay with you. Maybe sleeping in the bed is perfectly okay with you. And you feel safe all the time. Maybe it's about, can he be in the bathroom when you take a shower? Can he be nearby when you're changing clothes? Like those types of things you want to keep in mind. Do those go in the outer, middle, or inner circle? So other things that might go in the outer circle is maybe you're absolutely okay with eating dinner together as a family. I know that may seem kind of harsh to think about having to separate that, but sometimes that's necessary. It just depends on the situation and how you're feeling about that. It could be date nights. Maybe on this outer circle, you are absolutely okay with one date night a month that involves a public location. Or maybe not at all. So you get to decide. Now, how do you know if they're punitive? Okay, when you're writing these out, are you thinking about yourself or are you thinking about him? Okay, so that's the other thing to think about. I prayed a lot over these and I self-reflected a lot on what I needed in order to work on healing. And so that's what helped me determine what to go into these different circles. So hopefully this was helpful for you. The purpose of this is just to help you understand what you can be actively doing, writing things down on a list to help you progress in your healing journey. Okay, because like I said, and I'm going to say it over and over again, the goal is restoration. But when you do something like this, it's also going to let you know if the person that you're with has the same goal, okay? Because if their goal isn't restoration or redemption, then they're going to have a really, really hard time with this. And it's possible they're going to have a really hard time with it anyways, but they'll accept it and realize, I want you to feel safe. And for this period of time, I'm okay with this because this is what you need in order to feel safe. And this is what I have to respect in order to rebuild that safety and trust that they broke. Okay. So again, this is just kind of a consequence of betrayal, is having to change boundaries, because a lot of folks go into marriage thinking you shouldn't have boundaries with your spouse, but sometimes spouses aren't safe, and so we have to have those boundaries, because that's where healing happens, is in a safe space. And if we're not safe, we just can't get there. So hopefully this video was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know.